Hello and welcome back to Translator's Troubles on subjects other than English. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about a game I've been really getting into, and specifically about one character. Tiny Tina is a 13-year-old orphan from Borderlands 2, and I suppose Borderlands the pre-sequel, who also happens to be an explosives expert, and she helps you at one point rob a train, and she helps you in some of the other DLCs as well. But specifically, I wanted to talk about this controversy about whether or not Tiny Tina is actually a racist character. It'll come as no surprise that I don't think she's racist, but accusations have been leveled against her by various people, both in and outside the gaming industry, largely due to the fact that when she often speaks in a dialect that is reminiscent of the stereotyped dialogue of urban American blacks. And I'll roll a clip here and you can kind of see where people might be coming from.
Ta-da! Sup, shorty? I'ma be your trainer. Right now you like pow, but when I'm done you're gonna be like pillar pow! Get your butt to the arena and let's do this shiz. Come on back, Huggabutt. Your training is complete for now, maho. Let me know if you need any more help from a master! Until then, get to a battle board. Moxie's fine ass set up some fights for you that should pull Motor Mama out of hiding. Oh snap, son! We got buzzards! Look out! That's my girl! Woo! I must say, you've done a tremendous job, Vault Hunter. Once you become the champion, you are personally invited to a wine tasting at my summer home in the Highlands. Oh, and please do not invite Sir Reginald. After conversing with him further, I discovered that he is violently racist. These fine-ass women could stop that train for you, but I'ma need their badonkadonks first, and they got stole by the bandits a few days ago. Go get 'em! Nap time! Stay out, sucker! This my house! Step up!
I included in there a little bit of her, quote, dressy voice, where she's doing a kind of over-the-top, upper-class white person. But I'd say about 30% of the time, she's speaking with something that sounds like a black American dialect. Another 30% of the time, maybe as much as 50%, she's speaking in just a normal little girl voice, normal white little girl voice, as you would expect, looking at her face. And another 20%, she's doing other random things with her voice. As you can see, her vocal stylings are quite reminiscent of a stereotyped black character. Certainly reminiscent enough of that kind of speech to bring down these denunciations of racism. There appear to be at least two camps in this discussion. The first camp, obviously, says that since Tiny Tina is not black, but sounds like she is, then she must be a racist representation. She's essentially performing, according to this group, verbal blackface. The second group says that, well, many African American expressions, or rather expressions that originated in the African American community, have made their way into the standard American dialect. And crunk and badonkadonk are just words that have made that migration and are now a part of the standard American lexicon. I think both these people are wrong. I agree more with the second group than I do with the first, because I don't think Tiny Tina is a racist character, and I certainly don't think she's performing any kind of blackface. But I think simply to say that these expressions are now part of the American lexicon misses the point, and it misses something very important to understand about Tiny Tina's character. That thing that is so important to understand is that Tiny Tina has a fragmented identity. She's a 13-year-old orphan who happens to be an explosives expert, but we have to look at who her influences are. For the first 8 years of her life, presumably, her parents were her biggest influences. Then when her parents died, presumably, as far as we can tell from the game, Brick, Mordecai, Lilith, and Roland became her biggest influences. Roland and Brick are both voiced by black actors and are represented in the game as either black in the case of Roland or maybe a light-skinned black in the case of Brick. And both sound like black men. And so the reason that Tiny Tina speaks sometimes with a, quote, dressy voice, an exaggeratedly white voice, and the reason she speaks other times with an exaggeratedly black voice, it's expressive of this fragmentation of her identity, which is exactly what you would expect to see in the psyche of a 13-year-old girl orphaned by a horrific war. So, on the one hand, I agree in some ways with the people who say this is racist. At least I agree that she does in fact sound like a stereotypical version of a black person. Fine. But is it racist? Of course not. She's a child, and as a child, her biggest influences are, or two of her biggest influences are two black men, who, by the way, are both very, very positive characters. And it makes sense that Tiny Tina would reach for a kind of expression that would mirror or mimic the backgrounds of two of her main male role models. And it also makes sense that she wouldn't lose what I presume to be her native white dialect. And she does exaggerated versions of that dialect as well. It's kind of an interesting thing to note is that, Tiny Tina is not a white character dropped into this world of Borderlands. Right? She's not a black character dropped into this world of Borderlands. She's a child with a history. And even the way she speaks is expressive of the history that she's had to endure, including the death of her parents and her friendship with Roland, Brick, Mordecai, and Lilith. And I think that's part of that depth, whether or not we understand it explicitly, is part of the reason why she's such a beloved character in kind of the Borderlands fandom, if you can call it that. So I don't think it's quite right, as some people have done, to dismiss the significance of the racial connotations that her speech kind of bring to the table. We shouldn't dismiss them. They're definitely there. But they're not there as a piece of racism. They're there as a legitimate piece of characterization, without which Tiny Tina would be a worse character. Conclusion, Tiny Tina, not racist. Instead, the way she speaks is indicative of thoughtfulness and a wonderful character, like a wonderful process of characterization, which firmly embeds her in kind of the Borderlands backstory and lore. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.